Hey y'all, today we're going to be making a yarn Christmas tree. I've seen these Christmas trees everywhere and I knew they couldn't be hard to make. It's definitely a easy and very inexpensive project and they turn out so cute and you can do so many different variations. We're going to do a simple green tree today. The paint that I'm using I actually purchased at the Dollar Tree, and they also have yarn at the Dollar Tree. My yarn I purchased at Michael's. I just wanted a particular color green, but you can use the yarn of your choosing, and then you need to get a paint that just matches the yarn as closely as possible. And we're just going to slap this paint on here. It does not have to be perfect. We're only going to do one coat of paint. It's kind of hard to spread. The foam absorbs the paint a little bit, but it doesn't even have to be a thick layer. Just get a thin layer of paint on here, and then we're going to let that dry and move on to adding the yarn. And as you can see, the paint job is not perfect, but that definitely does not matter. We're gonna start adding the yarn. You just need to grab your hot glue gun and your yarn. And if you use too much glue, it gets messy and it also will melt the foam. So just apply a very small amount of glue to get started with the yarn. And you wanna do it all the way on the edge of the foam. And we're just going to add a little bit of glue all the way around the edge of this. And if, like me, you've got a little too much glue and it bubbles out of the side, once it cools down, I'll just press it so it pushes it down and you won't be able to see it. Now that I've got the very bottom covered, we're going to go around again and we're going to use the hot glue one more time. This is the only time until we get to the top of the cone that we're going to use the glue. Now with the second round of this, we're going to pull the yarn tightly whenever we are wrapping it. So you want to make sure you're pulling it tight and kind of holding it with your thumb and just keeping that yarn as tight as you can. Now we're just going to keep going around, and like I said, make sure you pull the yarn really tightly, but we no longer need the glue. So you're just going to go around and keep feeding the yarn, kind of holding it with your thumb, keeping it in place. And then as you go, you're going to see little gaps, which is fine because once you wrap it around a couple of times, you'll be able to adjust the yarn, which I will show you, but you'll be able to adjust the yarn to cover the gaps. After you've wrapped it around a few times, then you can just pinch the yarn together to make those gaps close up. And you continue doing that until you get to the top. You'll just wrap it and pinch it together little by little until you get it fully covered. As I was going along, I saw a gap at the very bottom, so because I'm still at the thicker part of the cone, it's not too late for me to just start pinching it together, and then just closing in the gaps until I get that filled in. But it is fixable. You don't have to completely undo your work. You just have to kind of work with it as you go. And now that we've made it up to the top of the cone, this is where we're going to break back out the hot glue gun and just start doing the same thing we did at the bottom. Just start gluing a little bit at a time as we wrap it, so that way it will stay in place. Now we're just going to make a little spiral at the very top here. You won't really be able to see the top. We're going to put a star, but you still can make it nice and clean. It's really just the final touch here is getting this last little bit on. All right, and just trim off the yarn here and clean up the edges at the bottom. I just had to put a tiny bit of glue on this at the bottom and then trim it just a little bit. If you have a little bit more excess, then you're going to want to cut that off. But once that's done, we just need to add the star and we'll be all done with our tree. The bag of stars that I purchased had a couple different sizes, so I was trying to decide if I wanted to do the big one or the smaller one, but I went with the smaller star and just putting a little bit of hot glue on the star, and then I actually cut a piece of yarn and put it behind the star just to cover up the glue on the back. So we're going to apply the star and I'll show you how I apply the little extra piece of yarn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's definitely a fun, easy project that you could do, and I'll probably have more of these in different variations, so I'll see you guys soon.